I look at this
Correct.
differently. If I'm Pete Carroll, I look at this and say the quarterback on the other side is awful. Jameis Winston is eventually going to give me the ball. He's eventually going to turn it over. He's woefully inaccurate. He can't throw it deep down the field. He makes a lot of mistakes, kind of a head case. I am going to play this game as tight as possible, keep it close, and wait for Jameis Winston, because I've got a bad quarterback and they've got a bad quarterback. So I'm going to do everything I can to limit the mistakes of my bad quarterback and try to take advantage of the mistakes of the other one.
Yeah.
It didn't end up working out. Obviously, they lost the game. Geno took a bad sack, which led to a missed field goal. Your defense and special teams
That was not a bad sack.
Yes, it was.
No, it wasn't.
Of course it was.
How is he supposed to throw that away when he
I
has
don't
a
know.
defensive tackle barreling down on him from the jump, from the second that's there?
Can't take a sack there.
Is it a bad sack overall? Yes, but it's poor execution.
You
It's
cannot
not on
take
Geno.
a sack in that moment in the high
could've-
red zone.
You could
with
have potentially made that worse. If he would have tried to have thrown that away, he could have potentially gotten to a worse situation where he's trying to throw the ball away, and he was under such duress so quickly that you're looking at potentially a strip sack, and now you're looking at not even getting the field goal attempt, Mike. So in that situation, I thought Geno did the right thing by just taking the sack rather than trying to make something out of nothing and forcing an even worse play.
You know what they could have done on that play? 3rd and 10, run the darn ball, and now you got a 41-yard field goal instead of a 52-yard miss.
Or Kyle Fuller could just block the guy that
But
he's
Kyle
supposed
Fuller
to.
can't do that, and
Exactly.
Geno
So,
can't elude
exactly
him.
my
And
point.
These guys
no,
can't do that.
Hold on. Exactly my point. So you want to run into an 8-9-man box. You want
Maybe.
to try to establish the run. Alex Collins finishes 16 carries, 35 yards, average of 2.2 yards per carry. Great job establishing the run there. And you have a guy in Kyle Fuller that you're looking at. I always want to call him Kyle Lewis. I don't know why. But Kyle Fuller gets into the situation. You're wanting him to
Better knees.
You're demanding that he plays up to the level of a Pro Bowl level center with the style in which you want to go about
Right,
the
because
run
if
game.
he doesn't,
I don't disagree.
Because if he doesn't play up to that level, okay, I don't get 4 yards, I get 2.5. Fine. I've lost out 1.5 yards on each one of those plays. As opposed to asking Geno to play at a level that he's not capable of, where if I ask him to do that, there's turnovers involved.
See,
and my philosophy is, Pete Carroll, don't turn the ball over.
Well, you should have a functional offense. That should be your philosophy, first and foremost. It should not be
Their offense generally functions. It doesn't function with Geno Smith, and I think you got a major problem that I don't think so.
It could.
No offense ever has.
It could be better than what we saw on Monday night.
Since West Virginia, what offense has functioned with Geno Smith?
The way that you go about it is you can run the football, but let's look at the Green Bay Packers. Let's look at the Green Bay Packers, and I know that they are a better team than what the Seattle Seahawks are, but you look at the Green Bay Packers, what they did without their 3 starting receivers. They have a better offensive line. They've got 2 great running backs that fit their scheme and what they want to do. But they didn't sit there and say, all right, we've got our 3 receivers down.
No, they loved that.
And we're going to pound the rock. They did. They did absolutely pound the rock. They ran for over 150 yards, but they did it in multiple personnel groupings. They did it in spread. They did it lining it up in 12, 13 personnel. They did it in a variety of different ways, Salk, that allowed them.
But they also had their quarterback. They had Aaron Rodgers.
They did,
at
sure.
their core. And by the way, nobody was happier yesterday than Aaron Rodgers. I get to be a hero. All my receivers out. It's all on me if he can pull it off. He's straight from the Brett Favre mold. Like nobody.
There's no doubt.
No one happier than Aaron Rodgers.
But
so let me ask you this question then, because this is Jake Heaps is here. If you're not recognizing the voice or you're used to hearing him during the middays, it's Jake Heaps who I'm arguing with. We were asking people the other day, what questions would you have if you were Jody Allen? Not what decisions would you make, not who would you fire, who would you get rid of, or anything like that. But as you're starting to, bring in information in order to make decisions eventually, what questions would you want the answer to? And one of the questions that I think is incredibly important is, why doesn't the personnel on this team seem to match the scheme?
It's the exact question.
Why is that?
It's the one question that matters. Because here's the deal. Stacy and I were talking about this and discussing it back and forth yesterday, is Pete's philosophy isn't inherently wrong. It's not stupid. It's not outdated. Playing great defense and having a very strong running game, that can be winning football, and it has been winning football
It generally is.
for a long time.
Yeah.
Now, there's different ways to go about it, but to me, with the way that you want to play defense, you want your 4 to beat their 5. You want to be able to play coverage behind it. Why aren't your assets going into your defensive line? Why are they all in the secondary?
I don't know.
Why are they into a strong safety in Jamal Adams that is a very unique and dynamic player? But to bring the best out of him, you've got to do something stylistically that you don't want to do. And you were willing to do that last year because you got desperate in a lot of ways. You were willing to pressure him 20% of the time.
Why?
How come they didn't do that this year?
Why are your best players on offense on the outside rather than up the middle? I think that's a very fair question. It used to be, when they won the Super Bowl, it was, who are these receivers? What did Doug call them? Pedestrian. They won with pedestrian receivers because they had the running game, they had the offensive line, etc. How is it that on this team, since the 2012 draft with Russ and Bobby, there are 2 high-impact players that were drafted by the Seahawks that are on this team? If you want to add a third, I'll give you Frank Clark. He's not on the team anymore.
Yep.
How is it possible to go a decade and only draft 3 high-impact guys?
It's not good enough. I mean, just honestly, you're going to be in a situation perpetually where you are in the position you are right now. And I think this is the worst version of this. Or the best version is that you get to the playoffs and you're an early exit team because you're just not as deep and not as talented as these other playoff teams that you get into the dance with. The other question, Mike, on top of that is, okay, all right, personnel doesn't match the philosophy. Why are you not willing to adapt or make adaptations to fit the personnel that you currently have? And that's the other one. And that's the thing that honestly is the one that drives me the most crazy. Because I think that when your great coaches are willing to do that in a variety of different ways to be able to maximize what you have, and it doesn't need to be wholesale change, Mike. It can be the simple aspect of looking at the difference between Tennessee, Baltimore, let's look at Cleveland, all right? What are their best players offensively? Just real quick. What are their best players offensively?
Tennessee, Baltimore, Cleveland?
Yes.
Well, Baltimore is their quarterback,
who is a
running quarterback,
such a dynamic, runner,
unbelievable.
Right? Tennessee, Derrick Henry,
running back.
Cleveland, it is Nick Chubb. So they are utilizing the strengths of their best players. With Green Bay, Dallas, you look at Arizona, you look at Buffalo. Right, these are all teams that have really good running games. But who does the offense really run through? If we're being honest. It's the quarterback. It's because the quarterback is their best player. So how do you mesh all of that together but still feature the guy who is your best player?